Hello and welcome back to I Completed 80s Music with me, the 80s Mixtaper. Today we jump into March 1981 and playlist 21, and what an episode we have. For any newcomers to the pod, back in the midst of 2016, I challenged myself to listen to the entire UK chart from the 31st of December 1979 to the 31st of December 1989. There I went, looking through old chart lists and using the streaming services, and after a spot of COVID, a dash of fairground attraction, an amuse-bouche of the Beastie Boys, and a big slice of Michael Jackson, and by 2021, I'd done it. This pod is the story of that journey, in calendar order, exploring all the biggest, best, and most bonkers songs of the era. We look at beginnings, big moments, and breakups, and throw in lots of fun facts along the way. As always, due to the delightful copyright laws, we can't actually play the music on the pod, but you will always find links to playlists for both Spotify and Apple Music in the episode description, plus a full track listing should those links fail on your podcast platform of choice. We've had a mad week on social media. You wonderful people never cease to amaze me, and often in the strangest of ways. This week, a more minor entry in Kate Bush's catalogue, Army Dreamers, which we featured in episode 14, blew up. Now, when I post the little clips of songs on social media, it's always a bit of a lottery what will do well, and sometimes I just really don't know. You might think that by posting a bit of Queen at Live Aid, you're going to get tons of views. Not so, probably because it's already been covered in infinite detail. But a smaller niche stuff, well, it's a bit of a lottery. So I posted a live performance of Army Dreamers thinking, this is really niche. Maybe 300 people will see it. 19,000 people later. And the outpouring of love for the track was fantastic to see. There were too many comments to mention, but one really stood out for me by Wisteria One. I'm so thankful that I grew up with Kate Bush's music playing in my home, and it still does. I'm now introducing my granddaughter to all her beautiful music. That's the wonderful thing about music. While every generation has their moment, it can also be handed down through the generations. If you're on TikTok, Instagram or X, you can find me as the 80s Mixtaper. That's 80s Mixtaper as in 80s. Or if you're old school and prefer to email in, it's completed80s@aol.com. Again, completed80s@aol.com. So, what have we got in the first half of playlist 21? Well, we get Phil Collins finding his groove for the rest of the decade as he becomes a global megastar. We get those doyens of 60s attitude, The Who, with their last big hit. We get the Phoenix from the Ashes moment of Joy Division as we meet New Order for the first time. And we end with some Night Games. So without further ado, let's get back to the music. Alright folks, let's slide back into March 1981, where Phil Collins is riding the wave of his solo debut album, Face Value. We're picking up where we left off with Phil after In the Air Tonight dropped like a thunderclap. Those eerie synths, that divorced fuel snarl, and that drum fill, all reverb-drenched menace. Now we're spinning I Missed Again, the second UK single from Face Value, Phil's solo debut that's still raw from his split with Andrea Bertorelli, but dressed up in a funkier, poppier suit. This track's a pivot, a glimpse of Phil shredding Genesis prog rock armour for something you could hear blaring from a car radio. Let's dig into this song, its sound, its story, and how it marks Phil's leap into the 80s pop stardom stratosphere, with Hugh Padgham steering the ship. Press play now. I Missed Again hit the UK in March 1981, following In the Air Tonight and climbed to number 14 in the UK singles chart. In the US, it was the lead single from Face Value, peaking at number 19 on the Billboard Hot 100. The song's got this infectious, upbeat groove, courtesy of the Phoenix horns, Earth, Wind and Fire's brass section, with Don Myrick on alto sax, Louis Satterfield on trombone, plus a searing tenor sax solo by Ronnie Scott. The lyrics, rooted in Phil's marital collapse, are deceptively light. Did I miss again? I think I missed again. Oh, the chorus goes. A shrug of failure wrapped in a melody you can't shake. The bridge nails the frustration. Well, it feels like something you want so bad, and then you think you've got it, but it's something you've already had. It's Phil kicking himself for blowing it, but the horns and that driving beat make it feel like he's dancing through the pain. This track's production, helmed by Phil and Hugh Padgham at Townhouse Studios, is where the 80s magic happens. Padgham, fresh off engineering Peter Gabriel's Melt, which Phil drummed, brought a clean, punchy sound to Face Value. The drums in I Missed Again are crisp and up front, with a bright snap that cuts through the mix. Unlike In the Air Tonight, where Padgham's gated reverb developed on Gabriel's Intruder give the drums that massive echoey punch, there's no clear evidence of gated reverb here per sound on sound and recording musician. The effect, which uses heavy compression and noise gate to chop the reverb tail, would have clashed with the song's busy arrangement. So why does I Missed Again sound so different from Genesis? Back in 81, Genesis was shifting gears with Abacab, which had not yet been released, trimming some prog fat for songs like No Reply at All, which also used the Phoenix horns. But even there, you've got Tony Banks' synth flourishes and Mike Rutherford's quirky bass lines keeping things cerebral. Phil's solo work, though, is all gut. Face Value was born from demos he cut alone in Surrey, nursing a broken heart, messing with a Roland CR78 drum machine and a Prophet 5 synth. Those demos, too straightforward for Genesis, Banks and Rutherford passed on them, became Phil's ticket to pop stardom. Padgham, who'd worked with XTC, helped polish them into Radio Gold, blending Phil's Motown obsession, he'd played with Brand X and loved Stevie Wonder, with a glossy, accessible sheen. I Missed Again is the result. Soulful, hooky, and built to stick in your head. A far cry from Genesis 20-minute epics like Supper's Ready. The music video is pure 80s. Phil mugging for the camera, miming drums and sax against a white backdrop, all charm and no budget. It nabbed a Grammy nod for Best Video Short Form, proof MTV was eating up Phil's every move. The song itself, with its I said now outro ad-libs, feels like Phil shaking off the gloom of In the Air Tonight. It's not just personal, it's universal, the kind of track you'd hear at a roller rink or a bar, everybody nodding along to that horn riff. This is Phil finding his 80s groove, and it's a sharp left turn from Genesis. Where Duke in 1980 still had prog's fingerprints, layered keys and odd meters, Face Value is about immediacy. Phil's not hiding behind concepts, he's spilling his guts, but with a beat you can dance to. Padgham's production is key, clean mixes, tight dynamics, no wasted space. By the time No Jacket Required drops in 85, with bangers like Sussudio and One More Night, Phil's selling 12 million albums in the US alone. Face Value itself hit number 1 in the UK, number 7 in the US, and moved over 12 million units globally. I Missed Again isn't the album's biggest hit, but it's the spark, Phil stepping out, horns blaring, drums popping, ready to own the decade. That shift to mainstream wasn't accidental. Phil's love for soul and R&B, honed through years of session work and Brand X, gave him a palette Genesis couldn't fully tap. His divorce gave him the raw material, but Padgham gave him the tools, SSL consoles, analog warmth, and a knack for making every instrument shine. I Missed Again is where it starts to click. The prog drummer turned pop alchemist, turning pain into something you can't stop humming. It's Phil Collins, 1981, planting his flag in the 80s, and the world is about to sing along. For track 2 today, we have One Last Dance, or at least one last big hit with one of the biggest bands of the 60s and 70s. The Who, those British rock titans, those sledgehammer-wielding, amp-smashing, teenage wasteland-defining legends, in March dropped You Better You Bet, a song that's both a love letter and a last stand. This is their final UK top 10 hit, peaking at number 9, and their last US top 20, hitting number 18 on the Billboard Hot 100. It's a track that feels like a band grappling with their past, their present, and a future that's starting to look a little shaky. So let's unpack this moment, this song, and the bruised, brilliant legacy of The Who, because this is our one shot to hang with them in this podcast universe. This is track 2. The Who formed in London in 1964, a quartet of restless, raw-nerved geniuses. Roger Daltrey, the golden-maned frontman with a voice like a lion's roar. Pete Townshend, the guitar-smashing, windmill-strumming songwriter who poured his soul into every chord. John Entwistle, the stoic bassist whose thunderous lines anchored the chaos. And Keith Moon, the lunatic drummer whose wild energy was the band's heartbeat. They were mod heroes, punk precursors, and rock opera pioneers, churning out anthems like My Generation, Who Are You, and Won't Get Fooled Again. And they just didn't define the 70s and 80s, but rewrote what rock could be. Albums like Who's Next in 1971 and Quadrophenia in 73 were seismic, blending raw power with cerebral ambition. By 1981, though, the band was in a weird spot. Keith Moon, their irreplaceable wild man, died in 1978 at 32, a gut punch that left a crater. Kenny Jones, formerly of the Faces, stepped in on drums, and Face Dances, their 9th album, was the first without Moon's manic swing. It was a transitional record, slicker, poppier, with synthesizers creeping in, reflecting the new wave sheen of the era. You Better You Bet is its lead single, released on February the 27th, 1981, and it's a snapshot of a band trying to move forward while haunted by their own shadow. The song itself is Pete Townshend's brainchild, written during a turbulent time. He was clubbing, partying, chasing a new romance after a rough patch in his marriage. The lyrics are a mix of cocky swagger and vulnerable ache, addressed to the new love. You better you bet, I call you on the telephone, my voice too rough with cigarettes. It's Daltrey's voice that sells it, braying and buoyant, with a nod to Elvis Presley's early rock bounce, as he admitted in a 2001 Uncut interview. Townshend's guitar riffs are sharp, John Entwistle and Kenny Jones lay down a tight groove, and John Rabbit Bundrick's keyboards add a glossy 80s edge. There's a sly nostalgia too, with Daltrey singing I Drunk Myself Blind to the sound of T-Rex. That T-Rex nod feels like Townshend winking at the glam rock past while standing in the neon-lit present. Chart-wise, the song was a surprise win. It hit number 9 in the UK chart in March 1981, their last top 10 there. In the US, it climbed to number 18 on the Billboard Hot 100 and ruled the Top Tracks rock chart for 5 weeks starting in April 4th, 1981. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Warner Brothers' boycott of independent promoters in the US crimped its airplay, as Townshend noted in a Rolling Stone interview. Still, it was a hit, enough to get The Who back on top of the pops, a surreal moment for a band used to blowing up stages. The black and white music video featuring the band and Bundrick performing was a big deal too. It was the 4th music video ever played on MTV when the channel launched on August 1st, 1981, and the first to get repeated airplay, hitting the rotation at spots 55, 98, 141 and 191. Critics dug it. Mike DeGagne at AllMusic called it arguably the strongest track on Face Dances, praising its synth-driven fit with the 80s and its witty, sarcastic lyrics. Record World raved about Daltrey's souped-up pop vocal over flashy electronic keyboards. Rolling Stone ranked it The Who's 32nd best song, noting how Townshend's punk rock enthusiasm tightened his songwriting. But not everyone was sold. Daltrey later admitted in The Who by Numbers that Kenny Jones, while a great drummer, threw off the band's chemistry. It's like having a wheel off a Cadillac stuck onto a Rolls Royce. Ouch. This song is The Who at a crossroads, still mighty, still magnetic, but missing Moon's spark. It's a love song, a pop song, a rock song, and a farewell to their chart-dominating days. You hear the past in every note, but you also hear a band refusing to fade out. You Better You Bet is The Who betting on themselves one last time, and damn it if they didn't almost pull it off. Okay, let's dive into the weird, wonderful world of Lena Lovitch and her single New Toy, a track that's like a glitter-dusted vignette of New Wave's quirky peak. Picture this, Lena Lovitch is out there with her banshee wail and thrift store chic, poking fun at consumer culture with a song that's equal parts catchy and chaotic. This is our one and only date with Lena. This is track 3. Lena Lovitch, born Lily Marlene Premilovich on March 30th, 1949, in Detroit, Michigan, is the daughter of an English mother and a Serbian-American father. Her childhood wasn't exactly a sitcom. Her dad showed signs of mental instability, once threatening to haul the family to the Soviet Union. By 13, her mum uprooted Lena and her 3 siblings to Hull in England, away from that chaos. In London, Lena found her groove, enrolling at the Central School of Art and Design, picking up the saxophone and meeting guitarist Les Chappell, who became her lifelong collaborator and partner. Her pre-fame hustle was wild. She screamed for Hammer horror films, go-go danced for Radio 1's Roadshow, played sax in a cabaret trio called The Sensations, and wrote lyrics for Cerrone's disco banger Supernature in 1977. She even fronted a funk band called The Diversions, covering stuff like Fatty Boom Boom, but her big break came when she cold called DJ Charlie Gillett, recording a demo of Tommy James' I Think We're Alone Now, and caught the ear of Stiff Records' Dave Robinson. Stiff signed her, and her debut album Stateless in 1978 dropped the monster hit Lucky Number, which hit number 3 on the UK singles chart. Great song, by the way, check it out. That song, with its yelping hook, made her a new wave icon. Her eccentric style, think big bows, braided hair and theatrical flair, cemented her as a cult figure. Fast forward to 1981, and Lena's riding the wave of her second album, Flex, and was prepping for her third, No Man's Land, in 1982. Enter New Toy, a standalone EP and single released in February 1981 on Stiff Records. Written by a then unknown Thomas Dolby. Dolby, who joined her touring band, penned this track as a thank you after seeing her electrify a crowd. Inspired by his shiny new Fairlight CMI synthesizer, New Toy is a fizzy, frenetic jab at consumerism. The lyrics, sharp and sardonic, go, "Did I ask for your love? Did I ask for your dedication? I don't want your love. I don't want your affection. But I've got to have the car. I need it for the weekend." It's Lena playing a materialistic brat, chasing stereos and freezers over human connection, with some sly double entendres hitting at sex toys. The track's urgent groove, Dolby on keyboards, Les Chappell on guitar, and that new wave synth buzz feels like a sugar rush with a dark edge. It peaked at number 53 on the UK charts, number 19 on the Billboard Hot Dance Club Songs, and number 29 on Australia's Kent Music Report. It even became the first ending theme for the anime Attack No. 1 in Italy. What makes New Toy pop is its controlled chaos. Lena's voice, soaring, theatrical, sometimes unhinged, rides Dolby's synths like a roller coaster. It's a performance, a cunning reflection of the bye 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 ethos of the early 80s, wrapped in a shiny pop package. You can hear the seeds of Dolby's later hit She Blinded Me With Science in its quirky production, but Lena owns it with her larger-than-life persona. The EP itself was a weird beast, 3 versions released outside the UK, one with 6 new tracks, others recycling cuts from Stateless and Flex. Tracks like Savages and Special Star later showed up on No Man's Land, but New Toy was the star, a bright, bizarre blast that proved Lena could evolve with the synth-heavy 80s without losing her edge. Lena's career didn't sustain that lucky number high, though. Disputes with Stiff slowed her down, and after No Man's Land she took a hiatus, focusing on family before returning with March in 1989 and Shadows and Dust in 2005. She and Chappell launched Flex Music in 2013 to control her catalogue, reissuing her work, and in 2023, Cherry Red's Toy Box 4-CD set compiled her Stiff years. She's still out there touring festivals and small venues, a new wave survivor. New Toy captures her at her pivot point. Still wild, still weird, still Lena. It's the sound of an artist refusing to be boxed in, even as the world tried to sell her the next big shiny thing. For track 4 today, we're back with an act we last saw a long time ago in one of the first episodes. We're into the sparkly, sequined world of the Nolans, picking up where we left off with their 1979 banger, I'm in the Mood for Dancing, a track that turned the Nolan sisters, Bernie, Linda, Maureen and Colleen, into disco pop darlings across the UK and beyond. That song hit number 3 on the UK chart, a frothy dance floor ready anthem that had everyone from Dublin to Tokyo on the dance floor. Now we fast forward to 1981, and the Nolans are back with Attention to Me, a song that's less about pop disco fever and more about a sassy, pleading strut for love and notice. This is the Nolans leaning into their pop evolution. Let's go. Attention to Me dropped on March the 6th, 1981 as the fourth single from their album Making Waves, which itself peaked at number 11 on the UK Albums Chart and hung around for 33 weeks. The single, written by Ben Finden, Mike Myers, no not that one, not Dr. Evil, and Robert Pusey, is a peppy disco-kissed pop number with a touch of Motown bounce, clicking in at a tight 3 minutes and 8 seconds. It's got that early 80s sheen, think glossy production, a rhythm section that snaps like a rubber band, and the sisters' harmonies stacked like a layer cake. The song's a cry for affection delivered with a wink and a nudge, and it's got this infectious, almost desperate energy that makes you want to root for the narrator even as she's begging for a guy's gaze. The lyrics lay it all bare. If I get on up and dance for you, scream and shout like a witch will do, would you give a little bit, give a little bit of attention to me? There's a playful theatricality here, the sisters painting a picture of a woman pulling out all the stops, dancing, posing, even flirting with another guy to spark some jealousy. If I walk right up with another guy, come on now boy, won't you turn an eye? It's not subtle, but neither are the Nolans. They're belting this out with a collective grin, their voices weaving together in a way that feels like a family affair, which, well, it literally was. The refrain, attention to me, pay attention to me, is a sticky earworm, the kind of hook that lodges in your brain and refuses to leave. Chart-wise, Attention to Me was a solid win. It entered the UK chart on March the 14th, 1981, and climbed to a peak of number 9, spending 13 weeks on the chart. It outperformed their previous single, Who's Gonna Rock You, which hit number 12, but didn't quite match the dizzying heights of I'm in the Mood for Dancing. Still, number 9 ain't shabby, and the song's success wasn't limited to the UK. It was also a top 10 hit in their native Ireland, the Netherlands, and 12 other countries. Let's just say it had legs, popping up on airways and in record shops across Europe and beyond. The Nolans were riding a wave in 81. Making Waves, their third album, was a slicker affair than their earlier work, leaning harder into pop with a side of soul. Attention to Me was the perfect single, upbeat, relatable, and just cheeky enough to stand out in a crowded pop landscape. The early 80s were a weird time for music, as I'm sure you've guessed by some of the entries. It's a bit of a tweener year. The Nolans, ever adaptable, threaded the needle, keeping their sound accessible but fresh. The song's production, with its punchy horns and tight rhythm, feel like a bridge between the Bee Gees' Saturday Night Fever era and the polished pop of, say, Bucks Fizz, who'd win Eurovision this same year. But let's talk about the sisters themselves. The Nolans, originally a family act with roots in Blackpool, England, and a childhood spent performing in Ireland, were a machine by 1981. They'd been grinding since the 70s, first as the Nolan sisters, cutting their teeth on variety shows and cabaret circuits. By the time Attention to Me hit, they were seasoned pros, their sibling chemistry giving them an edge. You can hear it in the way they trade lines, the way Bernie's lead vocal cuts through. Culturally, Attention to Me captures a moment. The early 80s were all about bold moves, big hair, big shoulder pads, big emotions. The song's narrative, a woman demanding to be seen, fits right into that vibe. It's not feminist manifesto territory, but there's a quiet power in its unapologetic neediness. The Nolans were delivering a good time, and they nailed it. The song's chart run put it in the company of heavy hitters like Spandau Ballet's Muscle Bound and Kim Wilde's Kids in America. Not bad for a family act from Blackpool. On the flip side, Attention to Me isn't their deepest cut. It's not I'm in the Mood for Dancing, which had a universal let's all hit the dance floor magic. This one's more specific, more personal, more for the fans. It's a song about wanting to be noticed, which maybe mirrors the Nolans' own journey, always hustling for that spotlight in a cutthroat industry. And while it's a tune, it doesn't quite have the timeless sheen of their biggest hit. Still, it's a snapshot of a band at their peak, confident enough to play with their sound while still staying true to their roots. For track 5, and we're back with the Whispers, picking up where we left off with their silky smooth disco juggernaut, and the beat goes on from 1979. A track which we heard all the way back in episode 5.5, a track that hit number 2 in the UK and basically owned every dance floor from Los Angeles to London. That was the high watermark of their crossover into the mainstream, a moment where their lush harmonies and airtight grooves made them feel like the coolest uncles at the barbecue. Now, let's fast forward to 1981, and they're dropping It's a Love Thing, the lead single from their album, Imagination. This is the Whispers leaning hard into their R&B roots, while still winking at the disco crowd. serving up a track that's equal parts heart-pounding romance and dance floor propulsion. It's the kind of song that makes you want to grab someone's hand and spin them under a mirror ball, even if you're just in your kitchen. It's a Love Thing lands in January 81 in the US, March for the UK, and it's a banger from the jump. Written by Dana Myers and William Shelby with production by the Whispers themselves, alongside Dick Griffey and Leon Silvers III. Two names we're abundantly familiar with at this point. This thing's a masterclass in early 80s R&B. The synths hit you first, those distinctive, almost futuristic tones that James Hamilton in Record Mirror called skippable, but with real grow-on-you appeal. He wasn't wrong. The track clocks in at a pulsing 117 to 119 beats per minute, a tempo that feels like your heartbeat when you're on the dance floor. It's got this thunderous smacking rhythm with the bass line laying down a foundation so solid you could build a house on it. The Whispers, Walter and Scotty Scott, Nicholas Caldwell, Marcus Hudson and Leveille Degree deliver vocals that are cheerful, catchy and dripping with that California cool they'd perfected over a decade on the Solar sound. Let's get to those words straight from the source. It's a love thing, it's a love thing. The look in your eyes is more than enough to make my poor heart burst into flames. Later they sing, and I could never hide the feeling that come over me when you're near me. I know that's how it's supposed to be. This is music for feeling, not overthinking. For those moments when you're so smitten, you're talking in your sleep about the love you made. The lyrics capture that dizzy, all-consuming rush of new love, and the Whispers sell it with harmonies that feel like a warm embrace. Chart-wise, this thing was a hit, though it didn't quite touch the heights of And the Beat Goes On. In the US, it peaked at number 28 on the Billboard Hot 100 and a stellar number 4 on the R&B chart, proving they were still the kings in their lane. Over in the UK, It's a Love Thing climbed to number 9 on the UK chart, spending 11 weeks on the chart and cementing their status as transatlantic favourites. It was their second and final UK top 10, a bittersweet note since they never quite cracked that echelon again. The music video features a then unknown Daphne Maxwell Reid playing a Hollywood correspondent, greeting the group as they step out of the limo. She asks Scotty Scott, how does it feel being platinum? And he just grins, it feels great. It's a flex, but a humble one, and then it cuts to the Whispers performing all smooth moves and tailored suits. The video's got that early MTV gloss, less about storytelling and more about capturing the group's charisma, which they had in spades. By 81, disco was fading, but the Whispers weren't ready to let it go entirely. They weave in those synths and that polished production that nods to the coming decade, while keeping the soulful core that defined them. It's a song that feels like a celebration of love, of movement, of that fleeting moment when everything clicks. You listen to it and you're right there with them, caught up in the groove, ready to fall in love all over again. For our penultimate track, it's a Phoenix from the Flames moment. This is something moving, something important. We're diving into the shimmering, jagged heart of Ceremony, New Order's debut single from 1981, a song that feels like a bridge between a ghost and a future, a raw wound and a pulse of something new. This is the story of a band rising from the ashes of Joy Division, a story of grief, reinvention, and a song that's as much a farewell as it is a first step. It's 1980 and Joy Division is gone. Ian Curtis, their haunted frontman, took his life on May the 18th, 1980, just before the band's first US tour. The surviving members, Bernard Sumner, Peter Hook, Stephen Morris, are gutted adrift in Manchester's grey sprawl. Joy Division was a comet, burning bright with Unknown Pleasures and Closer, their post-punk sound, a mix of jagged guitars, cavernous drums, and Curtis's baritone croon about isolation and dread. But now, the voice is silent. Most bands would have folded, but these guys, barely in their 20s, mind you, decide to keep going. Why? Because music was their oxygen, their way of processing the world. Manager Rob Gretton, a gruff visionary, pushes them to write new songs and book gigs. They agree to never play Joy Division songs again, to not lean on the past. They need a new name too. Joy Division was done the moment Curtis left. Gretton spots New Order in a Guardian article about Cambodia's political shifts, and it sticks. It's perfect. A new start. A New Order. This is track 6. So, they're a trio now. Sumner, Hook and Morris jamming in rehearsal rooms, each taking a stab at vocals. They play their first gig as the No Names at Manchester's Beach Club on July the 29th, 1980, just 2 months after Curtis's death. Imagine the weight of that stage, the crowd staring, wondering if these guys can pull it off without Ian. They play a few new tracks and one holdover from Joy Division's final days, Ceremony. This song, written with Curtis, was performed live at Joy Division's last gig on May the 2nd, 1980 at Birmingham University. It's a lifeline, a piece of their past they can't let go. They record it in September 1980 at Eastern Artists Recording Studio in New Jersey during a US tour, with Sumner stepping up as the reluctant frontman. He's no Curtis, his voice is thinner, more vulnerable, but that's the point. This isn't Joy Division 2.0, it's something else. Ceremony drops on March the 6th, 1981 as a 7-inch single on Factory Records, catalogue number FAC 33 with In a Lonely Place as the B-side. Both tracks were penned by Curtis, Hook, Morris and Sumner, the last gasps of Joy Division's songwriting. The sleeve, designed by Peter Saville, is a gold bronze stunner, all elegance and restraint. It enters the UK singles chart at number 39 on March the 10th, 1981, peaking at number 34 a week later, hanging around for 5 weeks. Not a smash, but for a band in transition, it's a pulse, a lifeline. The song itself, that opening bass line from Hook, those urgent and quite high for a bass line notes, hits like a heartbeat racing towards something unstoppable. Morris's drums are relentless, a galloping rhythm that feels like it's chasing the horizon. Sumner's guitar weaves in, bright and jagged, while his vocals, raw and unpolished, carry a fragile urgency. The lyrics, Curtis's last, are cryptic but piercing. This is why events unnerve me. They find it all a different story. Notice whom for wheels are turning. Turn again and turn towards this time. It's like he's staring into the void, grappling with fate, and Sumner's delivery makes it feel like a plea from the other side. Heaven knows it's got to be this time, a moment of desperate clarity. They record it again in September 1981, after Gillian Gilbert, Morris's girlfriend and a keyboardist guitarist who'd filled in with Joy Division, joins the band. This version, released as a 12-inch in a blue and white sleeve, adds her subtle guitar layers, giving it a slightly fuller sound. It's the one you'll find on the 1987 compilation Substance. The original trio version, rawer and more skeletal, lands on the 2005 singles comp. Stephen Morris calls it a hit single in his memoir, saying it had hit single written through it like Blackpool rock. He's not wrong. It's urgent, uplifting, a song that feels like it's breaking free from something heavy. The transition from Joy Division to New Order isn't just a name change, it's a sonic evolution. Movement, their debut album from November 1981, still carries Joy Division's shadow. Dark, moody, produced by a struggling Martin Hannett. But Ceremony points to the future. It's got that post-punk edge that hints at the dance rhythms they'd soon embrace, especially after soaking up New York's club scene. By 1983, with Blue Monday, they're pioneers of synth-driven dance rock. But Ceremony is a hinge. It's the moment they honour Curtis while stepping into their own light. Why keep going after Curtis? Because they had to. Sumner later said they were desperate to make records, not for fame but for survival. Music was their way of processing grief, of finding a path forward. Hook, in his memoir, talks about jamming as a way to cope, to build something new. They weren't just carrying Joy Division's legacy, they were rewriting it, proving they could stand on their own. Ceremony is a song about endings and beginnings, about holding on and letting go. It's New Order saying, we're still here and we're not done. You can hear the pain, the hope, the defiance in every note. It's not perfect, Sumner's still finding his voice, the mix is raw, but that's what makes it real. This is a band born from loss, staking their claim on the future, and man, what a future it would be. For our final track today, we've two tales. Firstly, stepping into the chaos of the 1981 chart, struts Graham Bonnet with Night Games, a single that's like a muscle car tearing through a disco parking lot. Released in March 81 as the lead track from his lineup album, it's Bonnett's first big solo swing after splitting from Rainbow, and it's a hell of a flex. We've met him before, howling on Rainbow's bombastic and slightly misogynistic All Night Long, but this is Bonnett alone, no Blackmore, no baggage, just a voice that could peel paint and a song that's pure unfiltered swagger. Let's tell the tale of the chart run and then Bonnett's wild ride with Rainbow, and why he bet on himself with his solo gamble. This is track 7, our final track today. Firstly, the song. Night Games dropped in March 1981, the lead single from Bonnett's third solo album lineup. It's a banger, a poppy hard rock anthem with a driving chorus that feels like cruising down a neon-lit strip at 2 a.m. Written by Edwin Hamilton, it was originally recorded in the mid-70s by a band called Fast Buck, but their version stayed in the vault until 2019's Night Games, the complete recordings box set. Bonnett got the tape from his manager Dave Oddy while kicking around New York after leaving Rainbow. He called it perfect, a tune that married his Rainbow-era muscle with a radio-friendly hook. The lyrics, night games, they pay for their night games. They were two lovers, they don't use names. It says in the rules. It's all about shadowy late-night hustles with a vibe that's equal parts danger and seduction. Co-produced by Status Quo's Francis Rossi, there's a name drop, and John Eden, the track's got Rossi's electric sitar adding a weird zingy flavour, while heavyweights like John Lord on keys and Cozy Powell on drums and Mickey Moody on guitar bring the thunder. It's a flex, a who's who of rock royalty backing Bonnett's wail. On the UK chart, Night Games was a hit, peaking at number 6 and hanging around for 11 weeks. That's a big deal for a guy fresh off a band like Rainbow, proving he could hold his own. The follow-up Liar hit number 51 for 4 weeks, and the lineup album reached number 62 for 3 weeks. Not bad, but Night Games was the real money shot, a track that caught the tail end of the new wave of British heavy metal's energy while flirting with AOR polish. Record Mirror's Simon Tebbett nailed it, calling out the clever contradiction of lyrical pessimism and musical optimism, though he wasn't sold on Rossi's melodramatic production. Fair, but that chorus is still great. Now, let's rewind to Bonnett's Rainbow days. Born December the 23rd, 1947 in Skegness, Graham Bonnet was no rookie when he joined Rainbow in 79. He'd already tasted chart success with the Marbles in 68, hitting number 5 in the UK with the Bee Gees' penned Only One Woman. After that, he bounced around, cutting jingles, dropping a solo album in 77, and scoring hits in Australia with covers like Bob Dylan's It's All Over Now, Baby Blue. Enter Ritchie Blackmore, Rainbow's guitar god, looking to replace Ronnie James Dio. Blackmore heard Bonnett through a producer pal and flew him to France to audition at Chateau Pelly de Cornfell. Bonnett, an R&B guy with zero love for hard rock, didn't even know Rainbow's music. He showed up in aviators and a Hawaiian shirt, looking like he wandered off the set of Miami Vice, not a metal band. Still, his 4-octave range sealed the deal. Down to Earth, Rainbow's 4th album was a shift, less mystical, more commercial. Bonnett's vocals on Since You've Been Gone, another Russ Ballard gem, and All Night Long pushed the band into the UK top 10, with the album hitting number 6. But Blackmore, a long-haired denim purist, clashed with Bonnett's Vegas lounge vibe. Tensions boiled over when Bonnett got a short haircut before a gig, sending Blackmore into a tantrum. He played the whole show behind his amps. Cozy Powell, fed up with the popular direction, bolted for Michael Schenker's group. By late 1980, Bonnett was out too, frustrated by Blackmore's pranks, like hiding his wardrobe, and eager to reclaim his solo career. He'd later say that he wasn't into Rainbow's spandex and Cuban heels aesthetic, and Blackmore admitted to Classic Rock that Bonnett's look was an obsession that drove a wedge. So Bonnett went solo, and Night Games was his declaration of independence. It's got that Rainbow DNA, big riffs, bigger hooks, but it's Bonnett unchained, leaning into his pop instincts while keeping the grit. The track's success showed he didn't need Blackmore's shadow to shine, even if his solo run never quite hit those heights again. He'd go on to form Alcatraz in 83 with Yngwie Malmsteen, chasing heavier sounds, but that's a story for another pod. For now, Night Games is Bonnett at his peak, a self-taught belter, with a voice that could crack concrete, delivering a song that's half barroom swagger, half arena glory. You can almost see him, aviators glinting, tearing into that chorus like it's the last night on Earth. Okay, folks, we're now halfway through playlist 21, but join us next week for some really interesting numbers. First up, we meet the electro juggernauts Heaven 17. Phil Lynott surprises us all with the eventual Top of the Pops music, and Hazel O'Connor shows us her D-Days, amongst others, as we continue to swagger through the weird primordial soup of 1981. Give us a follow on the podcast platform of your choosing, but other than that, have a super smashing great week, and until next time, take care.